My dear friends, brothers, and sisters, listen carefully. Sometimes God protects you by creating distance, especially from relatives who don't truly love you. When certain people begin to drain your peace, question your worth, or rejoice secretly in your struggles, God quietly steps in and rearranges your circle. He allows misunderstandings, silence, or separation not to punish you, but to preserve you. What feels like loss is often divine protection, because God knows that blood relations don't always mean heart connections. He removes you from places where love is conditional so He can heal you, strengthen you, and prepare you for relationships rooted in genuine care, honor, and purpose. God sometimes protects you by quietly creating distance from relatives who don't love you. Not every separation is a loss. Some are divine rescue missions. When love turns into control, God steps in. When respect turns into criticism, God intervenes. You may not understand why conversations stop. You may wonder why closeness fades. But God sees what you cannot see. He sees hidden jealousy and silent resentment. He hears words spoken behind your back. He knows the emotional wounds they cause. So He gently pulls you away, not to hurt you, but to heal you. Not to isolate you, but to protect you. God removes access to your heart, because peace matters more than blood ties. Some relatives are close in name but distant in love. They smile in public but wound you in private. God notices every tear you hide. He notices every prayer you whisper at night. When staying connected starts damaging your soul, God acts. He allows misunderstandings to create space. He permits silence to replace constant conflict. He slows communication for your protection. You may think you're being pushed away, but in truth, you're being pulled closer to peace. God never separates without a purpose. He never removes without a reason. Distance becomes medicine for your heart. Healing begins when noise fades, and clarity comes when God takes control. God knows that not everyone who shares your blood shares your heart. Some relatives only love you when you benefit them. When you stop pleasing them, love disappears. God sees that conditional affection. He refuses to let it destroy your confidence. So He steps between you and their negativity. He blocks access to your spirit. He shields your calling from their doubt. What feels like rejection is actually redirection. God is teaching you self-worth. He is teaching you boundaries. He is teaching you discernment. You are not losing family. You are gaining wisdom. And wisdom always costs something. Sometimes God allows relatives to misunderstand you on purpose, not to embarrass you, but to expose hearts. Those who truly love you will seek truth. Those who don't will walk away easily. God lets them leave without resistance, because forcing relationships drains your destiny. You were not created to beg for love. You were created to walk in purpose. God values your future more than their approval. So He removes distractions disguised as family. He removes voices that weaken your faith. He removes environments that stunt your growth. Separation feels painful at first, but pain fades when peace arrives. And peace is God's confirmation. God protects you by limiting access to your emotions. He knows how deeply words can wound. Relatives can hurt you more than strangers, because they know your history. They know your weaknesses. And sometimes they use them against you. God does not ignore that pain. He responds with divine distance. He closes doors you keep reopening. He silences phones that disturb your peace. He changes seasons without explanation. You may feel lonely for a moment, but loneliness is better than constant hurt. God chooses your healing over familiarity. because healing leads to wholeness. When God separates you, He is not abandoning you. He is repositioning you for growth. Some relatives are assigned to your past, not your future. They are comfortable with the old version of you, but threatened by your growth. God will not let them limit you, so He creates emotional distance. He shifts your priorities. He changes your focus. You begin to value peace over approval. You stop explaining yourself. You stop proving your worth. You start trusting God's plan. You start walking confidently. And that confidence is protection. God knows when love becomes manipulation. He knows when advice becomes control. He knows when concern becomes jealousy. So He steps in quietly. No loud announcement, no dramatic ending, just a gradual drifting apart. Less calls, less meetings, less emotional attachment. Until one day you realize you can breathe again. Your mind is calmer. Your heart feels lighter. That's not coincidence. That's divine intervention at work. God sometimes uses distance to teach you self-love. When relatives withdraw affection, God fills the gap. He reminds you that your value comes from Him, not from family approval, not from constant validation. He rebuilds your confidence. He restores your identity. He strengthens your faith. You begin to stand alone without fear. You learn to trust God fully. You stop chasing broken connections. You stop explaining your pain. You choose peace intentionally. And peace becomes your new normal. That is God's protection in action. Not every relative is meant to walk every season with you. God understands seasons better than we do. Some connections expire quietly, others end painfully. But all serve a purpose. God removes people who drain your spirit. He keeps those who nurture your growth. He filters your circle without asking permission, because He knows what's ahead. He knows who can handle your next level. He knows who cannot. Distance prepares you for elevation. Silence prepares you for clarity. Loss prepares you for abundance. And God wastes nothing in your life. If God has kept you away from certain relatives, trust Him. It's not rejection, it's protection. It's not punishment, it's preparation. God values your peace deeply. He values your mental health. He values your future. He knows love should not hurt constantly. He knows family should not break you. So He steps in as your defender. He draws boundaries where you couldn't. He gives distance where you needed strength. What feels like separation is divine care. God is guarding your heart. God is guarding your purpose. And God never protects without reason. God knows when familiarity turns into disrespect. He knows when jokes become insults. He knows when honesty becomes humiliation. Relatives may cross lines you kept forgiving. God sees every boundary you struggle to set, so He sets them for you. He slows interactions. He shortens conversations. He removes emotional access. You begin to feel less triggered, less anxious, less defensive. That outcome is not accidental. It is God protecting your dignity. Because you deserve honor, not endurance. Sometimes God hides you to preserve you. Not everyone deserves front row access to your life. Some relatives watch only to criticize. Others watch only to compete. God blocks their view quietly. He moves you into privacy. He teaches you silence. He teaches you discretion. Your life becomes less explained. Your plans become less shared. Your peace becomes more stable. This is not isolation. This is wisdom growing. God is teaching you protection through distance. And distance becomes your strength. God sees when relatives rejoice at your struggles. They call it concern, but God sees truth. He sees the satisfaction behind fake sympathy. He hears prayers spoken without sincerity. God will not expose you to that energy, so He removes you slowly. He disconnects you emotionally first, then mentally, then physically, until their opinions no longer matter, until their words no longer wound. This is not bitterness, this is freedom. God is breaking unhealthy soul ties, and freedom always begins quietly. When God distances you, He is teaching you maturity. You learn not to react to everything. You learn not to explain everything. You learn not to attend every gathering. Your absence becomes intentional. Your silence becomes powerful. Relatives may not understand, but God does not need their approval. He is shaping your character. He is refining your focus. He is strengthening your emotional control. Growth often looks like withdrawal, but withdrawal brings clarity. Clarity brings peace. And peace confirms God's guidance. God knows when relatives keep you stuck in old labels. They remind you of who you were, not who you are becoming. They replay your mistakes. They minimize your progress. God will not let your past define you. So He removes those reminders. He removes constant comparisons. He removes negative narratives. You begin to see yourself differently. You begin to believe again. You begin to hope again. This change is not pride, it is healing. And healing requires distance from old wounds. God sees emotional manipulation even when you excuse it. He sees guilt used as control. He sees obligation used as pressure. Relatives may demand loyalty without love. God refuses that imbalance. So He weakens unhealthy attachments. You stop feeling responsible for their emotions. You stop carrying unnecessary guilt. You stop apologizing for growth. God is retraining your mindset. He teaches you that love is not force, that family is not fear, that peace is not selfishness. Distance becomes your teacher, and God becomes your anchor. Sometimes God removes you before damage becomes permanent, before bitterness hardens your heart, before anger changes your nature, before resentment poisons your spirit. He steps in early. He shifts relationships. He alters dynamics. He allows fading connections. You may mourn what was, but God is protecting who you're becoming. He is guarding your softness. He's guarding your faith. He is guarding your joy. Some separations save your soul, and God always chooses your soul first. God knows you tried your best. He knows how long you stayed. He knows how much you tolerated. He knows how often you forgave. Distance is not failure. Distance is completion. It means the lesson ended. It means the season closed. You are not quitting. You are graduating. God is moving you forward. He is clearing emotional baggage. He is lightening your load. Peace feels strange at first, but peace is your reward. When relatives lose access, they may call you changed. God calls it growth. They may call you distant. God calls it discernment. They may call you cold. God calls it boundaries. Not everyone understands healing, especially those who benefited from your pain. God does not explain your journey. He simply leads it. Your job is obedience. Your job is trust. Your job is self-respect. Let God handle opinions. He is far better at it than you. God sometimes replaces relatives with spiritual family. People who respect your peace. People who celebrate your growth. People who pray without envy. Distance creates room for healthier connections. God never removes without replacing. He fills empty spaces with alignment. He fills silence with strength. He fills loss with purpose. You begin to feel supported again, understood again, valued again. This is divine compensation. God rewards obedience with belonging, and belonging heals deeply. God teaches you that love should feel safe, not confusing, not draining, not painful. When relatives disrupt that safety, God intervenes. He rewires your expectations. He raises your standards. You stop normalizing disrespect. You stop tolerating emotional chaos. God aligns you with peace. He aligns you with clarity. He aligns you with self-worth. Distance sharpens your discernment. You recognize red flags faster. That awareness is God's protection. God knows when staying connected delays your destiny. Some relatives distract you from purpose. They pull you backward emotionally. They weaken your confidence subtly. God removes that weight. He simplifies your life. He declutters relationships. You gain mental space. You gain emotional energy. You gain focus. Purpose requires clarity. Clarity requires separation. God prioritizes your assignment, even when it costs comfort, because destiny is worth the discomfort. Sometimes God answers your prayers through distance. You asked for peace. He removed chaos. You asked for healing. He removed triggers. You asked for growth. He removed limitations. God's answers don't always look gentle, but they are always loving. Separation stings initially, but peace follows faithfully. Trust the process. Trust the pruning. God cuts only to increase, and increase follows obedience. God, though, knows when relatives expect access without accountability. They want closeness without respect. That God does not allow imbalance. So He teaches consequences quietly. Access becomes limited. Conversations become surface level. Emotional doors close. Not in anger, but in wisdom. You become selective. You become intentional. God matures your heart. You stop reacting. You start responding. That control is spiritual growth. God sees the exhaustion you never mentioned, the emotional fatigue you normalize, the stress you hide behind smiles. Distance is His relief plan. He allows rest. He allows stillness. He allows healing. You breathe deeper. You sleep better. Your thoughts calm down. This is restoration, not abandonment. God heals quietly. He restores gently. And distance creates space for that restoration. God knows when relatives compete instead of support, when success threatens them, when progress irritates them. He removes you from comparison. He removes you from jealousy. You grow without pressure. You shine without guilt. God celebrates you openly, even when others cannot. Distance protects your confidence. It protects your joy. It protects your humility. You learn to win silently. You learn to grow peacefully. That balance is divine. God sometimes saves you from becoming bitter. Constant disrespect hardens hearts. God refuses that transformation. So He intervenes early. He changes the environment. He changes the access. He changes the atmosphere. You soften again. You trust again. You love again. That softness is precious to God. He guards it fiercely. Distance is His shield, not punishment. Protection always comes disguised. God knows when relatives drain your faith. Their words plant doubt. Their actions create confusion. God protects your belief system. He removes toxic influence. You reconnect with Him deeply. Your prayers feel lighter. Your worship feels sincere. Your faith strengthens. Distance brings spiritual clarity. You hear God more clearly. You feel God more strongly. This is alignment. God always prioritizes your faith because faith shapes your future. God teaches you that doesn't require constant access. True love respects boundaries. True love supports growth. When relatives fail that test, God steps in. He becomes your defender. He becomes your comforter. He becomes your source. You stop chasing approval. You start honoring yourself. That shift is powerful. God raises your emotional intelligence. You choose peace intentionally. You choose distance wisely. You choose healing bravely. And God stands with you fully. If God has kept you away, trust His wisdom. He saw what you ignored. He heard what you excused. He felt what you endured. Distance is his mercy. Separation is his strategy. Peace is his promise. You are not unloved. You are protected. You are not rejected. You are redirected. God is guarding your heart daily. He is shaping your future carefully. Let him lead without guilt, because God always knows best. God understands when love turns into obligation, when you stay out of duty, not joy. He sees the heaviness you feel before meeting them, the anxiety before every call. God does not want relationships to burden you. So he loosens the ties gently. He creates space to breathe. He gives you permission to rest. You stop forcing smiles. You stop pretending everything is fine. Dishonesty heals you. God values sincerity over appearances. Distance restores emotional balance. You begin to feel like yourself again. That freedom is God's gift to you. God knows when relatives use your kindness against you. They expect more while giving less. They drain without refilling. God sees the imbalance clearly. So he limits their access. He teaches you to pour wisely. You stop overgiving. You stop self-neglecting. God rebuilds your self-respect. You learn that love has limits, and limits protect love. Distance becomes a lesson in wisdom. You grow emotionally stronger. You value yourself more. That growth honors God's design. Sometimes God distances you to silence confusion. Too many voices blur your direction. Too many opinions weaken your confidence. God removes noise. He simplifies your circle. You hear his voice more clearly. Your decisions become peaceful. Your steps become confident. Distance brings alignment. Alignment brings purpose. Purpose brings fulfillment. God does not shout over chaos. He waits for stillness, and stillness often comes through separation. This is divine clarity at work. God sees when relatives refuse to respect your growth. They want access to the old you. But you are becoming someone new. God protects that transformation. He limits exposure to negativity. You stop shrinking to fit expectations. You stop explaining your evolution. God affirms your progress internally. You feel stronger emotionally. You feel safer spiritually. Distance shields your identity. You grow without interruption. Change requires space. Space requires courage. God supplies both faithfully. God knows when staying connected delays healing. Every interaction reopens wounds. Every conversation stirs pain. God closes those doors, not in anger, but in mercy. Healing needs time. Healing needs safety. Distance provides both. You process emotions honestly. You forgive without pressure. You release resentment slowly. God heals layers gently. Nothing is rushed, because wholeness matters to him. God sometimes removes you from family patterns, cycles of conflict, cycles of comparison, cycles of emotional neglect. He breaks generational pain. He chooses you as the change. Distance separates you from dysfunction. You begin a healthier path. God rewrites your story. You learn healthier love. You model healthier boundaries. Future relationships improve. This is legacy building. God protects future generations through you. And it starts with distance. God knows when relatives expect silence from you. They want you quiet and compliant, but God wants you healed and whole. So he removes you from suppression. Your voice strengthens. Your confidence grows. You stop shrinking emotionally. God restores your courage. Distance gives you space to speak, to think, to grow. You become emotionally free. Freedom deepens your faith. Faith deepens your peace. And peace confirms God's hand. God understands that loyalty without love is bondage. He never called you to suffer silently. So he intervenes. He loosens unhealthy expectations. You stop carrying guilt for choosing peace. God replaces guilt with assurance. You learn to say no calmly. You learn to walk away respectfully. Distance teaches emotional discipline. Discipline protects peace. Peace protects purpose. God aligns you with truth. Truth brings freedom. Freedom brings joy. And joy is God's will for you. God knows when relatives refuse accountability. They harm but never heal. They hurt but never apologize. God does not expose you repeatedly to harm. So He removes access. You stop waiting for closure. God becomes your closure. You stop expecting change. You accept reality. Acceptance brings peace. Peace brings strength. God rebuilds trust within you. You trust yourself again. That restoration is priceless, and God guards it carefully. If God has placed distance between you and certain relatives on earth, don't fight what God arranged. Don't reopen what God closed. Peace is evidence of His will. You are not cold. You are healed. You are not distant. You are discerning. God is walking ahead of you. He is clearing your path. He is guarding your heart. Trust His separation. Trust His timing. Trust His protection. Because God always separates to save. God knows when relatives only reach out in your weakness. They are present for your fall, not your rise. He sees the pattern clearly, so He changes the access. You stop sharing your struggles. You start protecting your progress. God teaches you privacy, not secrecy, but wisdom. Your healing becomes sacred. Your growth becomes guarded. Distance keeps your victory safe. You learn to celebrate quietly. God celebrates you loudly in heaven. This protection preserves your momentum. And momentum matters for your future. God understands when relationships survive on criticism. Nothing you do is enough. Every effort is questioned. God refuses to let that voice define you. He softens your attachment. He reduces interaction. You begin to trust God's voice more. Your self-talk changes. Your confidence stabilizes. Distance rewrites internal narratives. You stop doubting yourself. You stop seeking constant approval. God rebuilds your identity. Identity rooted in Him is unshakable. And that strength comes through separation. God sees when relatives use love as leverage. Affection appears only when you comply. God dismantles that control. He weakens emotional dependence. You become independent in spirit. You stop bargaining for love. God teaches you unconditional worth. Your heart strengthens. Your boundaries solidify. Distance breaks emotional chains. Chains break silently. Freedom grows steadily. God restores dignity. Dignity brings peace. Peace confirms God's protection. God knows when closeness creates emotional confusion, mixed signals, unclear intentions, unspoken resentment. God clears the atmosphere. He removes ambiguity. Distance simplifies emotions. You gain clarity. Clarity brings calm. Calm brings discernment. God never leads through confusion. He leads through peace. Separation becomes guidance. Guidance becomes trust. Trust deepens your walk with God. God protects you from repeating emotional cycles. The same arguments, the same hurt, the same apologies. He breaks repetition. He introduces change. Distance interrupts dysfunction. You choose healthier responses. You stop reacting impulsively. God retrains your emotional habits. You become emotionally mature. Maturity preserves relationships wisely. Not all bonds need closeness. Some need limits. God teaches that balance. God sees when relatives drain your spiritual energy. Conversations leave you heavy. Interactions feel empty. God restores balance. He shortens exposure. He renews your spirit. You feel lighter again. Prayer becomes natural. Hope returns quietly. Distance restores joy. Joy strengthens faith. Faith strengthens endurance. God protects what feeds your soul because your soul matters to Him. And distance feeds healing. God understands when you've outgrown the environment. Growth creates discomfort for others. God does not shrink you to fit. He moves you forward. Distance follows elevation. Elevation demands separation. You adjust slowly. You grow confidently. God affirms your direction internally. External approval becomes unnecessary. Distance builds inner security. Security builds peace. Peace builds strength. Strength sustains purpose. God leads every step. God sometimes uses distance to expose intentions. Those who care will respect space. Those who don't will reveal themselves. God allows truth to surface. You stop guessing. You stop hoping blindly. Clarity replaces confusion. God teaches you acceptance. Acceptance brings relief. Relief restores energy. Distance reveals character. Character determines access. God filters your circle wisely. Wisdom protects destiny. Destiny requires discernment. God knows when relatives confuse love with entitlement. They demand access without responsibility. God corrects that imbalance. He teaches mutual respect. Distance becomes correction. You stop over-explaining. You stop defending boundaries. God becomes your defender. You rest emotionally. Rest heals deeply. God never burdens you with proof. He validates you internally. Internal peace outweighs external approval. That peace is God's promise, and distance protects it. If God has placed distance, walk in it confidently. Don't apologize for healing. Don't feel guilty for peace. God is shaping your future carefully. He knows what must be removed. He knows what must remain. Trust is wisdom. Trust is timing. Trust is protection. You are not walking away from love. You are walking to a wholeness. God is guiding your steps. Every separation has purpose. Every distance has meaning. And God's plan never fails. Sometimes the greatest proof of God's love is the distance He creates. What He removed was never meant to destroy you, but to protect you. If God separated you, trust that He saw what you couldn't endure forever. Peace is your confirmation. Healing is your reward. And growth is your evidence. Let go without guilt. Walk forward without fear. And rest knowing this truth. God never separates you to harm you, to harm. He separates you to save you, strengthen you, and lead you into a life filled with peace, purpose, and genuine love.